Emma Delgado and Jason Whitman never expected a night out at Club Eclipse to turn into a nightmare. Within minutes, they found themselves surrounded by chaos, lights flashing, music blaring, and bodies collapsing around them. What began as an ordinary Saturday night would soon unravel into a story of mystery, betrayal, and a chemical no one saw coming. It was supposed to be just another Saturday night at Club Eclipse, a hotspot known for its thumping bass, vibrant lights, and a crowd that thrived on energy and excitement. People spilled into the streets, laughing, chatting, and making their way inside, eager to escape the monotony of the week. The neon signs flickered above the entrance, advertising drink specials and a night of music that promised to be unforgettable. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, the dance floor pulsed with synchronized lights, the DJ's beats bouncing through the walls, shaking the floor beneath everyone's feet. Groups of friends weaved through the crowd, finding spots near the bar or squeezing into booths, while strangers shared fleeting moments of connection on the crowded floor. Waiters navigated the throng of people, balancing trays of colorful drinks that glimmered under the club's ever-changing lighting. Security staff kept a vigilant watch, casually scanning faces while maintaining a calm presence, ensuring the night ran smoothly. As the night progressed, the energy inside the club intensified. The music became louder, bodies moved in unison, and the air was thick with the scent of perfume, alcohol, and anticipation. Conversations buzzed across the room, laughter mixing with the pulsing soundtrack of the DJ. It was one of those nights where everything seemed ordinary and perfectly in place until it wasn't. Near the bar, two groups of patrons collided, and what began as a few exchanged words escalated within seconds. Tension crackled in the air like static before a storm. People instinctively turned toward the commotion, some trying to intervene, others backing away in confusion. Drinks spilled across the polished floor, adding a slippery danger to the rising chaos. Chairs were knocked over, glass shattered, and in a matter of moments, the scuffle grew violent enough that multiple people fell to the ground, unable to regain their footing. The fight itself was a blur of movement and sound. The music continued to play, almost cruelly oblivious to the violence erupting beneath the lights. Patrons screamed, either in fear or in a frantic effort to protect themselves. The security team moved in, attempting to separate the groups, but the intensity and speed of the confrontation made control nearly impossible. By the time anyone fully realized the gravity of the situation, several individuals were already unconscious, sprawled across the floor amid overturned tables and broken glasses. Panic spread faster than the fight itself, with people scattering toward the exits, knocking into one another in their desperate effort to escape. The club, once a place of joy and release, transformed instantly into a scene of confusion and fear. Bystanders tried to make sense of what had happened, some calling emergency services, while others attempted to help the injured. It was hard to discern who had been hurt by physical blows and who had collapsed for other, less visible reasons. The sheer number of people affected left staff and patrons alike in shock, struggling to comprehend the rapid descent from celebration to disaster. Within minutes, the flashing lights of ambulances and police vehicles arrived outside, their sirens cutting through the night and drawing more eyes to the chaos. Witnesses described a surreal scene of unconscious bodies, panicked friends, and a room that still thumped with music, almost mocking the violence that had taken over the night. Even as paramedics began their work, the details of what had caused so many to lose consciousness remained unclear. Some assumed it was the intensity of the fight itself, while others suspected something more insidious. Cameras captured fragmented glimpses of the struggle, but the full picture was chaotic and difficult to decipher. The night, which had started with promise and excitement, had transformed into a mystery, one that would demand careful investigation in the days to come. In those initial moments, no one could predict how deeply this event would affect the victims, the city, or the nightclub itself. The memory of that night would linger, a stark reminder of how quickly joy could be overshadowed by sudden, unexplained danger. As the injured were rushed to nearby hospitals, the scene at Club Eclipse became eerily quiet. The flashing lights of emergency vehicles illuminated the empty streets outside, a stark contrast to the chaos that had erupted just moments before. Inside, paramedics moved methodically, checking pulses, administering oxygen, and trying to stabilize those who had collapsed. The first reports suggested a mix of injuries, bruises, minor cuts, and some concussions, but there was one alarming detail. Several of the unconscious patrons showed no signs of external trauma. Their collapse could not be explained by the fight alone, and this puzzled both medical staff and law enforcement officers. Investigators quickly sealed the club for examination, preserving every piece of evidence that could shed light on the incident. Security footage was retrieved, showing the chaotic moments before and during the scuffle. The videos captured the confusion from multiple angles, yet nothing immediately indicated the source of the collapse. It was clear that people had fallen suddenly, as if a wave had swept through the crowd, leaving them incapacitated. The question on everyone's mind was why this had happened, and whether it was entirely accidental or something far more deliberate. Forensic teams began combing the scene. They examined glasses, bottles, and spilled liquids for traces of contaminants. Preliminary findings revealed a small but potent presence of a rare chemical in several drinks, a substance unfamiliar to most first responders. Toxicologists were called in to analyze samples from the victims' systems, and early results confirmed the presence of a fast-acting compound capable of inducing unconsciousness within minutes. The discovery raised the stakes dramatically. This was no ordinary nightclub fight. The fight might have been a distraction, or it might have been entirely unrelated to the chemical exposure, but the combination of events suggested a planned, targeted attack. Interviews with club staff produced conflicting statements. Bartenders insisted they had not seen anything unusual, while security personnel recalled a few unfamiliar faces moving through the crowd in a way that seemed suspicious. Some staff members even admitted to feeling disoriented after the incident, though it was unclear whether this was due to stress or a minor exposure to the chemical in the chaotic environment. Authorities quickly realized that determining the origin of the substance would be critical to understanding the event. Meanwhile, word of the incident spread rapidly. Social media platforms were flooded with photos and videos captured by patrons, many showing individuals collapsed on the dance floor or being carried out by friends. Rumors ran wild. Some speculated about a deliberate attack on clubgoers. Others suggested an accident involving contaminated drinks, while conspiracy theories about organized criminal activity circulated unchecked. The public's fascination with the incident added pressure on law enforcement to solve the mystery quickly, especially as more details about the victims' conditions began to emerge. Medical teams worked tirelessly, treating each unconscious individual and monitoring their recovery. Some regained consciousness within hours, confused and frightened, while others required longer observation. The hospital rooms were filled with anxious friends and family members, all seeking answers. Investigators continued their methodical work, following every lead, collecting samples, and piecing together a timeline of events. The combination of a sudden brawl, the rapid onset of unconsciousness, and the presence of an unknown chemical made this one of the most unusual cases they had ever encountered. Each new discovery seemed to deepen the mystery, leaving authorities to wonder who had orchestrated the incident and why, and whether the city's nightlife would ever feel safe again. As investigators delved deeper into the backgrounds of those involved, a complex web began to emerge. On the surface, the victims appeared to be random clubgoers enjoying a night out, but patterns started to form that suggested otherwise. Many of the unconscious patrons were connected through shared social circles, overlapping events, and exclusive online groups. Some had recently attended private parties or industry gatherings, while others had posted about nightlife events in ways that drew attention to themselves. These connections seemed coincidental at first, but the more detectives explored, the more deliberate the links appeared. It raised an unsettling question: had someone targeted this group specifically, or was it an extraordinary coincidence that so many connected individuals were present that night? Investigators examined social media accounts, text messages, and digital footprints to uncover any potential motives. Several of the victims had interacted online with the same influencer, a rising figure in the local nightlife scene known for promoting certain clubs and events. There was evidence that some members of the group had planned to confront or challenge this influencer over recent disputes, though the details were murky. The timing of the fight at Club Eclipse, coupled with the chemical exposure, suggested the possibility that the fight had been staged as a distraction or cover for something more calculated. The case shifted from being a simple bar fight to a layered investigation involving social dynamics, personal vendettas, and hidden tensions within the city's nightlife community. Forensic analysis revealed additional clues in the chemical traces left at the club. The compound found in the drinks was not only rare but also required precise handling to be effective. This suggested that whoever orchestrated the incident had advanced knowledge of chemistry or access to specialized materials, narrowing the pool of potential suspects. Detectives began considering whether the motive was personal, professional, or part of a larger criminal operation. The fact that multiple victims were incapacitated simultaneously implied planning, precision, and intent. It was no longer a random act of violence, it had the hallmarks of a calculated attack. Interviews with witnesses further complicated the investigation. Some patrons reported seeing an individual moving through the crowd in ways that seemed deliberate, but most accounts were vague, overshadowed by the chaos and panic of the moment. Security footage showed fleeting glimpses of people entering and leaving at unusual times, some carrying containers that later became points of interest in the investigation. Each fragment of evidence added another layer to the story, suggesting that the events of that night were orchestrated with a level of sophistication that few had anticipated. As the investigation progressed, authorities mapped the connections between the victims, the club, and the suspects' potential networks. Detectives began to see a pattern that indicated someone had studied the club's layout, the timing of events, and the typical crowd that gathered there. The combination of personal grudges, public exposure, and technical skill painted a picture of an individual who was determined to make an impact and was willing to manipulate circumstances to achieve it. The unfolding investigation revealed not just a fight, but a larger narrative of planning, deception, and hidden motives, transforming a single night of chaos into a complex and dangerous mystery that demanded answers before more people were hurt. The breakthrough in the case came unexpectedly, almost like a puzzle piece falling into place after weeks of meticulous investigation. Review of the club's security footage, which had previously seemed inconclusive, revealed a figure moving through the crowd in a way that had gone largely unnoticed amid the chaos. The individual appeared calm and deliberate, carrying a small container that was carefully hidden from view. Unlike the panicked patrons who collided and stumbled, this person navigated the floor with precision, slipping between groups and avoiding the attention of security. The footage captured only brief moments, but investigators were able to enhance and analyze the images, identifying subtle details such as clothing, posture, and movements that suggested prior planning and intent. Once this lead was established, detectives turned their attention to tracing the chemical substance found in the victims' drinks. The compound was highly specialized, used primarily in experimental laboratories and research facilities, and access was tightly controlled. Investigators discovered that the suspect had ties to a local lab, providing both the knowledge and the opportunity to obtain the rare chemical. This connection explained the precise and controlled nature of the incident. The substance was administered in a way that incapacitated victims without leaving obvious signs of injury, indicating an understanding of dosage, timing, and the effects on different individuals. Authorities began piecing together a timeline, working backward from the moment the unconscious bodies were discovered. They identified when the suspect entered the club, how the container was handled, and how the chemical might have been distributed. Surveillance footage from nearby streets and entrances revealed additional movements that had gone unnoticed, showing the suspect entering and exiting the club with purpose, blending into the crowd while carrying the material. Each detail added to the picture of a carefully orchestrated plan, one that relied on timing, knowledge of human behavior, and the chaotic environment of a crowded nightclub. The investigation also uncovered a surprising social element. The night of the incident coincided with a widely promoted online event which had drawn a large, specific crowd to the club. Investigators realized that while the suspect acted alone, the social media buzz effectively amplified the impact, drawing the precise group that had been targeted. It became clear that the suspect had studied not only the club but also the patterns of attendance, using public information to select the victims indirectly. This revelation shifted the narrative from a spontaneous act of violence to a calculated exploitation of modern social behavior, highlighting how digital exposure could be manipulated for harmful purposes. As the pieces fell into place, law enforcement narrowed their focus on the suspect's identity, tracking digital records, financial transactions, and professional associations. They discovered a history of obsession with certain social circles, combined with advanced scientific knowledge that made the chemical attack possible. The final breakthrough came when surveillance footage captured the suspect handling the container in a way that matched the chemical traces found at the scene, providing the concrete evidence needed to link the person directly to the incident. What initially seemed like a random nightclub fight had transformed into a story of premeditated strategy, meticulous planning, and exploitation of both chemistry and social behavior. The investigation revealed not only who was responsible, but also how modern society's reliance on digital connections and public events could be manipulated to orchestrate chaos in ways that were almost invisible until it was too late. The aftermath of the incident at Club Eclipse was marked by a mixture of relief, shock, and lingering unease. With the suspect identified and arrested, authorities began the long process of ensuring justice and understanding the full scope of the events that had unfolded. Charges were filed, including multiple counts of assault, reckless endangerment, and the illegal use of a controlled chemical substance. The legal process promised accountability, but it could not erase the trauma experienced by the victims or the uncertainty that had gripped the city in the weeks following the attack. Families and friends of those affected struggled to reconcile the sudden, inexplicable violence with the idea that a night of fun had turned into a near disaster. Medical teams continued to monitor and treat the victims, some of whom experienced lingering effects despite recovering from the immediate impact of the chemical. Temporary memory lapses, headaches, and disorientation were common, while others faced anxiety about returning to public venues. Psychologists emphasized that the emotional impact of such an event could be as significant as the physical injuries, noting that the fear instilled by the attack could shape behavior long after the incident itself. Hospitals provided resources for counseling, and support networks emerged among patrons, friends, and employees who had witnessed the chaos firsthand. The recovery process became a shared community effort, highlighting the resilience of those affected while underscoring the unpredictable dangers of crowded nightlife environments. Club Eclipse itself faced scrutiny both from authorities and the public. In the months following the incident, it remained closed as investigators reviewed safety protocols, staff training, and security measures. When it finally reopened, changes were evident: stricter ID checks, improved monitoring of beverages, enhanced surveillance systems, and a more visible security presence. Patrons were encouraged to remain vigilant, and the club implemented educational campaigns about personal safety and recognizing suspicious behavior. The reopening was cautious, balancing the desire to return to normalcy with the need to prevent any repetition of the chaos that had occurred. The management emphasized transparency, sharing the steps taken to ensure safety while acknowledging the lingering fear among regular visitors. The case drew attention from experts in chemistry, public safety, and social behavior who analyzed how a combination of rare chemicals, careful planning, and digital targeting could create a uniquely dangerous scenario. Commentators highlighted how modern social networks and public events could inadvertently facilitate such incidents, emphasizing the importance of situational awareness and preventive measures. Law enforcement agencies incorporated lessons learned into training programs for nightlife venues and emergency responders, using the incident as a case study for rapid response, crowd management, and forensic investigation. The story of that night became more than a report of a fight. It transformed into a cautionary tale about the hidden vulnerabilities of social spaces, the unexpected reach of malicious intent, and the delicate balance between freedom and safety in public life. While justice had been pursued, the lingering memory of unconscious bodies on a crowded dance floor served as a stark reminder that danger can be both invisible and immediate. Communities reflected on the events, considering how seemingly ordinary environments could become sites of calculated risk, and how vigilance, preparedness, and awareness were essential in navigating the complexities of modern urban life. The incident remained etched in the city's collective memory, a reminder of how quickly a night of celebration could shift into a story of survival, resilience, and reflection.